Okay, hi, I'm Ben Cassoni, and this is my first episode of Packets of Light. Today I'll be talking about living light. So let me just start my presentation here. Present. Okay. All right. So living light. So I want to talk about the spirit of Elijah and how we can create from a higher level. So we need to understand patterns and creation and light. To find happiness, to find joy, we need to understand these three things very well. Okay. Now the opposite of that is chaos, destruction, and darkness, or unorganized matter and energy. And these opposites show us in our life. So when our life is not living in a true ordinance and out of order, we have chaos, destruction, and darkness. When we're not living our true identity and living in our personality in the proper way, it's chaos, destruction, and darkness. So do you ever feel drained and depressed or lost? Well, there's a man who's, as you know, this story here is a story about Indiana Jones looking for lost treasure. And we're all looking for what is the treasure in our life. This may show up in many different ways, but we're looking for a treasure. And what's different here is all these people are looking for the treasure, and yet they can't find it. And this one man seems to somehow find the treasure. Okay, so what is it that makes him different that all these other people here are not seeing? So, a treasure in life may represent by money, it may represent friendships, it may represent connection to God, it may represent so many different things. But we're all looking for that treasure. And God used the symbol of treasure to help us understand how to connect to Him and how to find His power and light. So if you'll notice, at the end of the tabernacle is a treasure chest, the Ark of the Covenant. And in the very first Indiana Jones, it talks about the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the way they portray it's the world's ways. But the way that God wants us to, I think, see it is through a way of light. So light is the fabric of everything. It's the spirit of Elohim. It's the quantum field. It is a word that represents the thing that makes up everything else. And so as you go to the temple or worship or practice your spiritual practice, let's review some basic things. Light is a particle, it's life, and it's a wave. And so I'm going to talk about a few things here, but I want to go talk to this point here. Okay, so, all right. So we have a few human needs, and if we don't understand we're built to have these 6 human needs, it's like trying to understand chemistry, but you leave out like half the elemental table. And we're built to be fed by light. We're built to be fed by food. We're made to eat. We're made to be nourished. And so a lot of times our dysfunctional behaviors come about, or our illnesses, or our poor relationships, or problems in life come about because of our miscreations, our sins. We're missing the point. We're miscreating. We're misusing our powers, or misnourishing ourselves in the proper way. Tony Robbins teaches about these 6 human needs, and I think these relate to the tabernacle. And I'll let you kind of figure out your own way of relating this, but I think they really relate nicely to the 6 objects in the tabernacle. So there's 5 objects before you get to the Ark of the Covenant. So there's 5 key objects, and then there's the Ark of the Covenant. I think that's important. So the first one is certainty. Certainty that we can be comfortable, right? Well, if you want to be comfortable, you need to build a house. And so that's what they did. They built a tabernacle. And if you want to be comfortable and be fed, you need to get food and supplies, and you need to take care of the physical things. So we have that need. But if we just stayed at that need our whole life, we would not progress and grow. Because we have other needs, and we'd feel starving if that's the only need we ever took care of, is the physical basic necessities. So we want to have pleasure and avoid pain. The code words for certainty are comfort, security, safety, stability, feeling grounded, predictability, protection. Right? These are meeting our physical needs. The need for stability and comfort. Uncertainty/variety is the challenges that exercise our emotional and physical range. Our bodies, our minds, our emotional well-being all require uncertainty, exercise, suspense, variety, and surprise. So sacrifice is picking something with all this variety, and you have to pick something, and you're like, hey, this is what I'm going to give into life. And that variety and that uncertainty of your sacrificing when you might have the fear of being left out in something else, and having faith and like, all right, I'll try this. or I'll explore this, or I'll learn about this, is stimulating, it's enlivening, it arouses our spirits. We learn laws and lessons. Code words for uncertainty are instability, change, entertainment, suspense, exertion, and surprise. The need for stimulus and change. So the gospel provides us the need for stimulation and change. Significance. Everyone wants to feel special, important, needed, and wanted. Code words for significance are pride, importance, achievement, performance, perfection, evaluation, discipline, competition. So what does this have to do with the tabernacle? Well, if you think about it, the first is the outward structure of the tabernacle. That is the form and the function. And you go to the altar of sacrifice. Altar of sacrifice provides your ability to give and stop focusing on getting things. And as you give, your spirit can shift, and you can learn about what he was giving and the kind of energy that comes and spirit that comes when you focus on the give versus get. And then as you come to laver, the priest would be washed, anointed, and clothed, and they would be set on their journey of significance. They would be set on their journey of being important and special, the sons of Levi, and the sons of Aaron. And so God is trying to teach us how he meets human needs through these objects and through these ordinances that organize us. Our ordinances are basically saying, teaching God's pattern of order so that we can contain more light. Because he could give us light all day, but if we can't contain it, like, what good is it going to do us? It just leaks right through. So we need to feel special and worthy. So becoming kings and queens and priests and priestesses helps us to feel special and worthy of attention. He designed us to feel significant. He designed us to have certainty. He designed us to have variety and new things in life. So opposition, don't feel worthy of love, right? So someone wants love and doesn't feel he's worthy of love, and that he's insignificant unless he's a good father, a good husband, that he has a car, that he's got money. But if we let that chaos of the world go and start to reorganize our idea of what significant means, the husband can start to see himself and what makes him significant in new eyes and in new light. So he has a godly significance or divine significance instead of the earthly or a lower order. So this was a story about Jessica and her husband, and Jessica was having a hard time in this Tony Robbins conference with her husband because he felt insignificant, but he needed to feel significant before he could feel love. And so just like the order of respect, trust, and love, the triad, respect, trust, and love, you can't jump to love. You got to start with respect, right? Help them feel significant. And then trust, you have that rapport in the relationship, and then you go to love. Okay. And so this is a story. Anyhow, moving on, the next is connection and love. So this could be parental love, love between spouse, love between parent and child, love between friends, right? But we need connection. We thrive for it. Now, you could use all these needs as a drug to get high, in a sense. Like, you could use all these and like really, really focus on them and develop unhealthy behaviors trying to meet those needs. But if we can't see the bigger picture, that what we're trying to do is we're trying to feed our souls and our spirits and our bodies, then we're going to miss the point. Hence miscreation, hence sin, hence repentance, learning to create at a higher level. So everyone needs connection. Everyone strives for the code words for that would be togetherness, passion, unity, warmth, tenderness, romance. We need to be belonged and loved. We need to feel like we belong. Growth is the next one. It either has to do with growing or dying. We need to constantly develop emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. The growth, the need to learn new things and expand. And then contribution, a need of our spirit. We all desire to go beyond our own needs and give to others. Everything in the universe contributes beyond itself, or it is eliminated. Contribution, the need to give beyond yourself. Okay, so that's all I'm going to share on there. So let me go back to here. Okay, so first pattern here is to align with light. Okay, so what I found recently is when I'm not in alignment, my energy just drops a lot. And my emotions are magnified in the positive or negative if I'm aligned with light or not. And I feel it in my body. Literally, I will feel more depressed or more happy depending on how I'm aligned with this light. So synergy and alignment are two concepts often used in the context of organizational management. Synergy refers to the creation of the whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, while alignment refers to the process of ensuring all the parts of an organization are working together towards a common goal. So the more that we come in connection with the source, or Jesus Christ, or the source of light and truth, the more that our heart and our mind will be in sync with creation. Now, the other part of the source of light and truth is our higher self, or our true core, our soul self, the part of us that existed, existed before we came to earth and will exist after. That part of us is pure and is godly. And we came down here and we covered it up with a bunch of stuff, and we buried that treasure. And we are that treasure. We are that treasure that's in the Ark of the Covenant. So Jesus Christ represents our perfect self. And as we start to uncover our pure, perfect self, there's two kinds of perfect. One is perfectly following, and the other kind is perfectly completed. So one is a process, perfect process, like you're putting your whole heart into the process. You're perfectly following, and you're receiving grace along the way. You're perfectly following, even though you're making mistakes, because you're following the right signal, the right source. The other is perfectly complete. That's when you receive the fullness of the Father. Okay, so synergy is co-creating, and alignment is allowing the best flow. So if you want to learn how to be a creator, you have to realize that creation doesn't ever happen alone. A mother and father come together to create a child. You cannot create a child without both a mother and a father, a man and a woman. Likewise, we cannot create in this universe without co-creating with others of God's children, but most importantly, without God and His Spirit and His energy and light. So anytime you're creating with Him. And to the degree that you create with Him, you're in synergy. Right? The degree that you don't create with Him, you're creating at a lower and lower order. It becomes more and more difficult to create at lower and lower orders, especially as the veil around the earth is beginning to burst. The earth's spirit is growing, and we're feeling the effects of that. And the veil, or the filter around the earth, is allowing different energy and light into it. So literally, we're being pressured to ascend. We're being pressured to up-level, and that causes two things. One is our emotions are doubled, and our carnal mind is inflamed, or our material mind, as I call it, more focused on all the material things that are outward, that are physical, that are tangible, that are matter, that are dense. So as this process of kind of arousing our ego and our carnal mind, we're realizing that you can't work at this level anymore. You're going to have to go to a higher level of creation, because this is going to have to take a lower place, because there's a new king and queen in town, and that's the spirit mind. That's the mind of our heart. That's the mind of our true self. So we have to learn to connect to our true self. Otherwise, it's going to become more and more difficult. So you'll get depressed, you'll get more problems, it goes on and on. You're basically inflaming your nervous system if you don't learn how to let more light in. So alignment is allowing the blessed flow. So if you want to create flow in your life and in your relationships, align with that light, align with your true self, align with Christ. So the temple teaches us the patterns of how to have more packets of light. A packet, right, can be a little container you can keep clothes in or homework in, or something, but it's a container, and you can, just like in a computer, you can send packets of information. It's compressed information. So when you get a revelation, it's like, oh, that's one little idea. You're like, oh, okay, and then you get another one, like, oh, wait, that conflicts. I don't know what to do. And then you get something from the world, like, well, that feels true, and how do I put these together? Well, packets are actually multiple pieces of revelation that unfold as you receive more light into a bigger picture. But at the time, when you receive it, it just feels like one little thing. But what you don't realize is they've been planted, like all these little seeds over time. So a packet's like a seed. So the tabernacle is the divine template to help you learn how to transfer light from the highest intelligence to your intelligence, and to operate at a higher level. So this would represent, let's say, God, and this would represent Christ. Now, Christ is truth. What is truth? A high fidelity copy of the original source. So Christ is the copy of complete fidelity of the Father in His image, and He can contain all the light that the Father can, and He won't lose any of it, because He knows to keep all the conditions and bounds and laws, or the commandments, that allow Him to contain that light. So if you have two intelligences, let's say this is God, or the source of truth and light, and this is you, and you feel like, oh, I'm just this little small little light, and you're trying to figure out, well, God's given me these revelations, I've had these amazing blessings in my life, and then life isn't going good. Well, you're leaking light. Or you're having all these problems, you're leaking light. Or all these people are causing problems for me, you're leaking light. If you were like Christ, you could overcome all things. So the question isn't about all the problems I have in life. The question is, how do you get more light and contain that light and keep sustaining and feeding yourself with more light? So I call this process lumiform. Now, some people in the old scriptures would call this a covenant. That means to cut into, if you look up the Hebrew word. So like when the Lord is doing a covenant with us, he's cutting into our hearts. And sometimes it feels like, wow, this is really difficult to hurt. Like you have high expectations and standards. Well, of course, he's trying to build you into a light-containing system that can contain the light of the universe. Yeah. And you're like, well, I couldn't possibly do that. Well, who is I? Is your I the small material mind, the small carnal part of yourself, or is the I am an amazing divine spirit like Christ, and I can become like him? So ask yourself, who is the I? So if the problem here is you're leaking the light, right? It's leaking out. So you got to repair the pipe, and you need to know the process of repair. The tabernacle pattern shows you the process of repair and the process of becoming like Christ. So convergence, right? You have divergent and convergent. Divergent comes together where all things come to a point. Divergent goes out. So as you get this process of covenanting, or lumiform as I call it, you're shaping yourself. You're reshaping and recreating yourself as God cuts you open, and you have these like open parts of your countenance and aura and your heart where you're like, ow, this hurts, and I feel so like painful and awkward, yet it feels good. Well, this light is stretching you, and every time you have a broken heart, you have the opportunity to be like clear out the darkness and fill it with more light, and that will repair and mend, and you'll have a larger, more powerful, stronger container. You'll be able to contain more love, more light. So don't look at every experience where you have a broken heart as a bad thing. Now, I don't want to discount. There's very real challenges like depression and betrayal and hurt and many different forms of pain and suffering that I don't want to discount, and you should find the proper means and methods to help them physically, socially, intellectually, and spiritually, right? In all the domains, and find the best experts. But God is going to be teaching you as you come to understand his pattern that covenants are the shape of his embrace. That literally this embrace, this lumiform is an embrace. It's like two hands joining together in agreement. It's like two hearts coming together for a purpose. It's like a husband and wife coming together to build a family. It's like two awesome entrepreneurs coming together to start a company. And the shape matters because the sacred geometry, the shape of our connection, helps create a new you, a brand new you. I love this song from Ben Rector, Brand New. Listen to that one. I love it. So our challenge is to understand and shape our life to that love. So when that's coming into us, sometimes his love is going to break our heart open. Sometimes his love is going to give us amazing experiences, difficult experiences. And the purpose of that, remember the cloud and the pillar of fire that was over the tabernacle, was to let the people know it's time to move. It was uncomfortable. Think about it. In the desert, it's hot. Well, there's a nice big pillar, this big cloud, a cloudy pillar that covers you and shades you. Oh, that feels so nice. And oh, this feels nice in the wilderness, so it's hot. And then at night, oh, it's really cold and it's windy. And this fire keeps you warm and comfortable. Well, with that equilibrium, when that cloud moves in your life, that may be for painful experiences or delightful experiences. But the point is it's moved because this is where you need to go to find more light and love. You need to start moving and get out of that zone. And you're going to feel this uncomfortable pressure to move. And sometimes it's not going to move when you want it to move. You're like, oh, I want to start going to Israel. And they're like, nope, you need to stay right here. You need to learn the lesson. So we need to understand his shape. And the tabernacle is the shape of that love. Christ is the physical embodiment of that shape. So we have four parts of our identity in our creation. We have our individual intelligent eternal awareness. Now this individual internal awareness is plugged into the spirit web, is plugged in the spirit of Elohim. So you can't not be disconnected from God. Or rather, in other words, God created you as an extension of him, and you can never not be an extension of him. That's because that's how he sees all things. So this part of you is interesting because God placed a part of him, you, into a sphere, an eternal sphere, and you're independent to act in that sphere, and he will respect your agency. But there's this connection mechanism, kind of like the network of spirit web, I call it. So this eternal awareness is what is your agency. It is what is your ability to be aware of things and to decide to change your frequency and your energy to higher or lower levels. This is the part of you that creates, like God. Then you have your spirit body. It's a container of intelligence, and it's energy that holds this intelligence in more light and truth. Now, this is elastic, it's fine, and it's pure. Joseph Smith said it's elastic and fine, pure. It's actual material, it's actual matter. It's just more fine and pure. Then we go down into the nervous system. That's the mind, the knowledge, and the intellect. That's what connects energy of the spirit matter to the physical body. And they can speak and communicate to each other. That's the mind. Then you have the physical body. That's elements, matter, and dense and heavy. And so you have these four parts of you. This is the intuition level. This is the social emotional level. This is the intellect level. And this is the physical doing level. This is language. This is spirit language. And I want to identify that there's a difference between spirit language and intellectual language. And you'll need to understand these as you want to progress. Okay. So, intuition. You pray and read your scriptures to hear, you pray to speak to God, and then you read your scriptures to prepare your mind and heart. And your intuition is how you hear God. So for the longest time, I thought like I had to hear a voice. I had to be like this at some person at church. I thought God had to speak in a certain way. It's really simple. Intuition is how God speaks to you. Whether it's a feeling in your gut or a sensation in your heart or like you just felt led to something and you can't explain it. That's how God speaks to you. That's how the universe's intelligence speaks to you. Okay. So you can look at this. The problem is not seeing I'm the sovereign in charge of my life. So when you don't see yourself as the king or queen of your sphere, you will let light out and darkness in. You will not be able to have good boundaries with people. You will be constantly following people. You will not be able to connect into the divine will and get in alignment and in synergy. So I feel like there's something really important here, all right, about the neck and your will. And like so in the matrix, they connect into the back of the neck. That's the way. So right, the matrix, right, this would be like your real self over here, your true identity connects into the matrix, and your mind is like plugging in here in the back. And this is operating this body, right, this bodysuit in the matrix. And the matrix is a story. At the very beginning it says, follow the white rabbit, right, like Alice in Wonderland. And so he follows this symbol and he's following his intuition. And then he awakens to go, wait a second, like I am this body and I'm in this simulation and I'm in this like game. And life can feel like a big game if you don't step back into the higher levels of order and create from that level of order. So when he goes back into the matrix, now he has all this power because he can understand the code of creation, the spirit of Elijah. And so then he can start doing all these amazing things. So what is light? Well, it's where energy and matter meet. It's where light flows through your veins, where notes meet connection, where connections make patterns, where patterns meet meaning, where massive action meets purpose, where energy meets structure, where creation meets creator, where service meets problem, where life meets joy. Light is the fabric of everything. So as you go to the temple or you learn about the tabernacle in the scriptures, it's going to be inviting you to think of yourself in a higher way. It's going to be inviting you to think of creation in a higher way. And if you really want to understand how to overcome sin and worthlessness and all these lower types of energy, you need to understand light. And you need to understand how to get more light and contain more light and to be more light. And I would invite you to think about where are the times where light feels like a wave and you need to go with the flow of things, and where is it very dense and it's very exacting and it's very about being honorable. That's a particle. And where does life mean life and it feeds you and it's about connections and it's about adventure and variety. If you really want to understand the language of the scriptures, you need to understand these 6 creative elements. So fire, earth, water, metal, seed, and tree or wood. And these 6 creative elements and will teach you how to build a container of light. That the very story of creation teaches you how to contain light and to embody the spirit of Elijah, to have power to seal this circle, this sphere that you are, and then to amplify that power. And so what happened when the tabernacle was finished? That's when the cloud of light came. That's when the pillar of fire came. And so literally when our heart and our mind are in sync, we generate an electromagnetic field that looks like an apple, kind of like a sphere. And then the light of heaven and the energy of the earth come together like a pillar of fire, literally. They can show this in things from Dr. Joe Dispenza and others. So my point in sharing all this is to invite you to make your temple and tabernacle journey more meaningful. Because as you create more meaning, the Lord will be able to reveal more to you and teach you more. And as you listen to your intuition, not just the words I'm saying and try to copy things or copy someone you see online, but as you use your intuition, you start to becoming a creator for yourself, not a copycatter or not just a repeater. And so if you really want to get out of your problems, stop being a repeater and start being a creator. Start asking the Lord, how can I become a more powerful creator? So that's what I'll wrap it up today with, is as you learn the language of light, ask questions like, how can I become a more powerful creator? Who can I go to that will teach me more about this language of creation? How do I follow my intuition better? How do I hear you better? Because that's what intuition is. It's hearing him better. And so I often thought that the Lord had to speak in a certain way about how other people did it. But that was me being a repeater and being caught in the ways of the world. The Lord's way is an individual, unique way of hearing him through your intuition that's completely personal and completely encrypted. And in those little packets and seeds, you'll keep finding more and more and more. And you'll realize he planted things you need to know now 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. And now he can unlock those things that are personal to you as you start to open up the light of creation. So I hope to see you guys again, and thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this podcast here.